I don't pay too much attention to government figures. Mainly, they're usually incorrect, and the rest of them are always lies. So that's not a way to get good investment advice. The recession is here. Anybody who doesn't understand that should just walk out and look out onto the street, and they'll see the recession. It's here. It's going to be the worst since the Second World War. And if politicians keep bungling it, it's going to be worse than that. What they're doing is the wrong thing. If you remember, in 1929, we had a bubble, stock market bubble, which burst, and then we were going to have a recession, and then the politicians around the world kept making mistakes, and they turned it into the Great Depression and then the Second World War. The politicians this time are making the same kind of mistakes. The world's not going to end this week or this month, this year even, maybe not even this decade, but the UK doesn't have much to sell to the world anymore. The North Sea is drying up, according to your government. The City of London, the financial system, according to your government, is a disaster. What else is there to say? The trade is going to continue to deteriorate, and therefore the pound sterling is going to be under pressure. You have stupendous debts, international debts and domestic debts. I don't like saying it. It's not any fun saying it, but we have to deal with facts. Well, if I were the UK, and the mistake that Gordon Brown made last year was not letting Northern Rock go bankrupt. He should have let some people go bankrupt. Then the assets would have moved from the incompetent to the competent people, and the whole system could have started over with a stronger base. What's happening now is they're taking the assets away from the competent people, giving them to the incompetent people, and saying, now you compete with the competent people with their own money. This is bad economics. This is terrible economics, and it's terrible morality. Not that politicians care about morality. This is not the way to solve your problems. This is what the Japanese tried in the 1990s, and they still talk about the lost decade in the 1990s. My policy is to let the incompetent people go bankrupt. The people who are bankrupt, let them go bankrupt. And then the competent people, there's plenty of equity, money in the world that would go in, buy up the competent people, the still solvent assets, and start over again. Banks have been going bankrupt for a few hundred years, and especially investment banks have been going bankrupt. This is not the end of the world. This has happened many times before. But look at the Japanese model. It's 19 years later in Japan. The Japanese stock market is still 80% below where it was 19 years ago because they tried what the English are doing. It didn't work. It's never worked. The only things that have ever worked are let the people collapse, grab the good assets, and start over again. It's not just your grandchildren, it's your children, it's you. Don't you know how much debt the English government has taken on here in the last 6 months, and how much it's going to take on in the next year or two? I mean, these are gigantic numbers for a country that cannot afford it right now. I don't see good things for the U.S. dollar or the pound. There are many currencies in the world. I own a few others that I think are sounder, but there are not many, not if any, sound currencies left.